Hello and welcome back to the SP podcast. It's March and it's me, Diane Daniels, and I'm joined as ever by politics enthusiast extraordinaire Tatton Spiller. And we'll be joined for the mailbag by video guru and producer Lottie Smith. Hello.
What is this?
Showbiz.
What's going on?
It's showbiz.
What? Where's Diane gone?
I can't start it like, my usual...
What? Sounding like a human?
Yeah.
I mean, you could start as sounding like a human.
I feel like you hit a podcast, you want a bit of razzmatazz.
You're rocking Dr. Fox from Capital FM in the 90s vibes.
Oh my goodness, we should take a request. Let's go to the phones. No.
No. There was also, I quite liked it. You've written the script, Diane.
Yeah.
You do it every week. Mm-hmm. And you've written that I'm a political enthusiast extraordinaire, which is a wonderful phrase. But then you got to the end of it and you paused like you couldn't believe you were going to say it was me. Like, you wrote this.
Yeah, I did. But no, I've had a sleep and I've reflected and... Yeah, but anyway, glad we're all good. I'll let you settle. But yeah, all good. Good week.
I mean, it's been a hell of a week, right? Like a hell of a week. It's got serious for a second. I think we're gonna get to why it's been a hell of a week when we do the top posts, I think.
Yeah.
But before we get there, I need to have a serious conversation with you, lovely listener. Yes, this is the bit when I talk about Patreon, but listen, please don't skip it. It matters. I've been looking at the books this week quite carefully, and it turns out we are exactly £175 short on this podcast every month. Now, that's not paying for our time. That's not paying for our expertise. Probably wouldn't be worth expertise. But don't shake your head. It might be worth something, Diane. Probably wouldn't be worth anything. But just to do the technical side of things, we get some income from the adverts that are slotted into the podcast. We get some income from our wonderful Patreon people. But after that, to do the costs of recording and editing and posting and all of that stuff, we're £175 short. So we have an audience of thousands, but it's not paying and times are tight. So if you could spare £3 a month or £5 or 10 or however much money, if you could spare that a month to keep this going. We've been talking about libraries this week, and there's a lot of love for libraries, but also libraries are mostly empty all the time and then they're closing because people aren't using them. And it's the same with your local pub. If you want your local pub to stick around, use your local pub. Like, you can't complain there's no shops on your high street anymore and it's all cafes and barbers if you didn't shop on your high street, right? Because if you shop on Amazon all the time for everything and you don't use your high street, you can't be sad your high street disappears. And I guess, like, we're not a high street. But continuing to do a podcast that loses money, even if it's only £175 a month, it's difficult to reconcile when I'm doing the books and times are this tough at SP. So if you like this podcast, if you enjoy this podcast, please consider chipping in from £3 a month. And if you do that, you can listen to this podcast without any adverts. You won't have to have, I don't know what adverts are going to slot in, but you won't have to listen to those things that aren't targeted. You just get to listen to you just get to listen to us talk, which I'm not sure is better. But maybe it is. And you have our eternal gratitude. So absolutely. There it is. If you can support this podcast just to break even without paying for our time, That would be wonderful.
Thanks. Yeah.
Oh, it's patreon.com/Simple Politics. I should say that. Patreon.com/Simple Politics.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Give it a look. Right. Let's do top post, Tatton. Let's do let's look at the socials and what was in this week in the top 3 places. So, you want to kick us off?
Yes, because in at 3, whenever you do this, it feels a bit Top of the Pops. It feels a bit Radio 1 chart show in at 3. But this time, in at 3 is actually a pop star.
Yeah.
So I'm basically auditioning Listen Radio 1 when you do your chart show. When whoever does it now leaves, take a look at this 44-year-old man. I could smash it. It was Myles Smith, who has had just had a massive year. He was really helped by Radio 1 because Radio 1 was in Luton for their big... Gosh, it's all about Radio 1 today. For their big... They have a festival called Big Weekend. It's a terrible name for anyway. They have a festival called Big Weekend, and last year was in Luton, and Myles Smith is from Luton, and so they pushed him hard. And it turns out that when Radio 1 push you hard, other places, they're so massive, other places pick up on it. And, you know, he's decent. If you like Mumford & Sons and you like new singers who sound exactly like Mumford & Sons, you're going to love Myles Smith.
He doesn't sound
right?
like Mumford & Sons.
Have you not heard Mumford & Sons, Diane?
Yes, I have.
Well, then listen to Myles Smith and go, oh, yeah. But so he's had this amazing year, and he was given a hand by Radio 1, but then you need to be good enough. If you start off being given a hand, you then need to kind of come good on that, right?
Yeah.
So, well done to him. And he won a Brit Award at the weekend, and his acceptance speech was... Well, it was really lovely. It was about funding the arts, largely, and how he came from a community where he didn't have very much. He talked about being a single parent family, and he talked about how music at school, his school music classes, set him off. He spoke from the heart, and it was really emotional, and I really enjoyed it. The quote we put on, I'm going to read the quote from the Post in its entirety. So, to the government, if British music is one of the most powerful cultural exports we have, why have we treated it like an afterthought for so many years? How many more venues need to close? How many music programs need to be cut? We can't just celebrate success. We have to protect the foundations that make it.
Yeah, strong.
I mean, it's moving. And it's part of this trend where Chapel Rowan's been talking a lot about treating musicians better because she's winning awards in every country in the world at the moment. She won 2 at the Brits, even though she wasn't at the Brits. And we had little videos of her, and she talks about this stuff. I mean, this was specifically politics.
Oh, and Sam
specifically
Fender.
To the government.
Sam Fender's been talking about it a lot this week as well because...
Has he?
He's talked about this, the bit, it kind of... Yeah, around how it is becoming more and more of a gap, of an inequality gap in music as well. Because, and it's in our comments, if you aren't getting a free instrument at school, well, then it's up to a parent to pay for your music lessons, right? And not all parents can do that. And so that's where thick gaps start to widen, gaps start to come in. So this is, they talk in Parliament all the time about closing the gap and making it so that your parents' wealth or success or whatever it is doesn't impact your life chances. There's a lot about private schools at the moment.
because of the VAT they've just done, and Oliver Dowden at PMQs this week stood up and asked again about private schools, and Keir Starmer basically said, "You don't care about state schools." And then and then Victoria Atkins shouted, "That's a lie," and was told off by the speaker. It was House of Commons lols. Equality. Music is all about equality. Like, we can all listen to music and feel what we feel. With Myles Smith, what I feel is boredom. But, no, like, he made a really good speech. I just find him boring on his old music. That's okay. I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah.
I will fight for his ability to make music and to do what he does, and I can see that other people love him, and that's fine. I just think he's a bit meh. Except for when he's making speeches. Anyway, enough. I'm gonna tie myself in knots again. So, Diane, what's in it too?
Right, in it too. We need to talk about Ukraine and America and the UK again. We talked about it last week. I'm sure we're going to talk about it next week as well. But on Friday night, I was sat on my couch doing, I had something on the TV, but I was also doing a fair bit of scrolling, as you do. And I saw the footage on my phone at first of the Trump-Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office. And and then I was like, oh my goodness, is there any news on proper TV we should turn over, because this looks like nothing I've ever seen before from a diplomatic meeting. And I think there's sort of the fallout of that on Friday night sort of kept coming, and what was in for us at 2 was Keir Starmer then appeared on Sunday morning. He was booked on the BBC's Laura Kuenssberg programme, and a lot...
Oh, I was going to stop you there, Don. He wasn't booked on. Wasn't booked on.
Okay.
He wasn't doing it anyway.
Oh.
He specifically came on with everything.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So,
but I only interrupt because that's really important to what you're going to say about what he said, because he... in a busy time, they messed up the whole format of the show to have him at the beginning, because he was dropping in to talk to the country.
Yeah, well, from Friday night to Sunday morning, a lot of people who weren't the Prime Minister had responded on things like Twitter, on things, on their own social media, on making media appearances and statements. But Keir Starmer waited, in a way, till Sunday, till he had that audience, and he kind of did it his way, which was, he was very calm, very purposeful, all the years of legal training and build up, you can just see it in him, that he's got that, that response in him to be just very considered. And he talked about that he wasn't going to be, what a lot of people wanted, I guess, was for him to look at that Zelensky-Trump meeting and go, oh my goodness, Trump didn't treat Zelensky fairly, and come out and call him out on it. That's what a lot of people, I think, wanted to happen. And he was very much saying, look, I'm not going to come out and I'm not going to say who was right, who was wrong, because that doesn't serve any purpose and it doesn't help peace in Ukraine. He needs to keep a cool head. He's the bridge, right? He's the bridge, along with Macron, maybe. He's the bridge between Ukraine and the US and Europe at the minute. And he's doing, by all accounts, quite a decent job at phoning people into the night and keeping conversations flowing. And he's not going to come out and wreck that. He's not going to call Trump names. He's not going to But in his own subtle way, he keeps a calm head, he said. I'm keeping all the channels of communication open. But he, on the steps of Downing Street at the weekend after it happened, gives Zelensky a hug there with, all the European leaders. So he has his own way. He has his own way about it. And I think for some people it's frustrating because they see things and they want the big response and they want, the English Prime Minister standing up to the US Prime Minister in Love Actually situation, which we've talked about before. That you've still not seen, Tatton.
No, I haven't. No, and I don't think I ever will at this. I don't think now's the time to get onto it. But I but this is Myles Smith. Love Actually. There's a whole kind of genre of so-called art that's linked, I believe.
But that was what was number 2. And what is surprising for us is our page is. Has lots of different opinions on it. People are very keen to be critical of the government, and rightly so on some occasions, when we put up things about policy. But on how Keir Starmer conducted himself, keeping himself calm and considered, there was quite a lot of broad agreement for that's probably how we needed to be.
I think that he has smashed it, hasn't he? I mean, he's just really, really played that Sunday morning interview was perfectly pitched. It was calm, it was reassuring, it was purposeful, and. The Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch at PMQs was very supportive on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then she tried to have a little attack in the very last question because she needed to have a little attack. And she didn't really have anything at all, not on this. Listen, benefit cuts are coming. The employment rights bill is coming. There's stuff on sentencing. The Labour are not out of the woods. This government is not out of the woods, but on Ukraine, on diplomacy, there is massive support for what he's doing. And you're right, Diane, it's that legal training, it's that serious man, it's that stuff. He appears to be the perfect guy for us at this point.
Right. What was number 1?
I love SP readers because everywhere else in the world, Zelensky was number 1. But for us, it was GP appointments because people need to know how they're going to get to the GP. And it's an absolute... Right, I've got a little thing that I need to go and see a doctor about. I need to go and see the doctor. And I don't really want to, but I need to. If I want to get a doctor's appointment, I have to call at 8 a.m. Now, that's the exact time I'm dropping Felix off at school. So I can't do it. And because I'm a bit scared to go, it's never going to happen. And I cannot book that appointment at another time.
Do you have the online thing?
I can't book online. I can book online for because I'm on lithium for my head. I can book online for my blood test.
Okay.
But if I would start nurses, that kind of thing. But for a proper GP appointment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the government this 8 a.m. scramble's rubbish. I agree. I don't know how to structure it because you kind of got to go through somebody, I think, because sometimes people want a GP appointment because they got a bit of a cold, and then that really bungs up the whole system, just like it bungs up your nose if you've got a cold.
See what you did there.
Yeah, thanks, Diane. Patreon, yeah. This government says that by October, everybody's going to have be able to get an appointment online. And then in the House of Commons, someone asked, well, what about if you're not really very technical, if you're an older person? Lots of older people aren't very good at tech, and lots of old people need more GP appointments than other people. And he said, no, it's perfect, because when everyone else is booking online, when your nan needs to book, they can phone up and you just go straight through because there's fewer people on the phones.
Yeah.
So cutting out red tape, governments like to talk about cutting out red tape. The idea is it's going to be easier to get a GP appointment, and everywhere in the country has to be online. You have to be able to get appointments online from October. And given the way things are, I probably won't have been to see the doctor about the thing I need to go see the doctor about till October. So I look forward to booking my appointment online then.
We need to engineer this for you. You need to get to a doctor. But yeah, it's. I hope it works. There's some chat that it's already rolled out in lots of places in the country where you can actually book GP appointments online.
Can you do it?
I can, but not same day.
Huh?
Not same day. No, for like 2 or 3 days out. I think Lottie's the same. She's given me a thumbs up there.
Yeah, but no, I'm cross with Lottie because Lottie moved to Whitstable 6 months ago and she still has to go up to London for her appointments.
Oh, okay.
Hasn't moved her GP
But you
yet.
can book them online.
Well, brilliant. Lottie, you've got to get that done.
I know. It's on my to-do list.
Well, you've
Before
both got
November.
homework. Tatton, book a GP
Yeah.
appointment. Lottie, move your GP. There you go.
I will. I'll let you know next week if I do it.
Perfect. Great. Right. Well, we head to the mailbag because Lottie, you're here and we need you for this.
Hello.
Hello.
Week 2.
Yes.
Good to be here.
Week 2 of Lottie. The few remaining listeners are about to switch off.
Am I scaring them all away?
What have we got this week then?
So we've got a couple of questions this week. Really good questions, actually. So question 1, we've got Gary. Gary asks, should we ban membership of political parties in the UK?
Wow. Like, actually ban membership of political parties?
Okay, so my initial reaction is what?
Yeah, that's
And then but then my second reaction is, oh, that's quite nice. If we tried to do getting rid of tribes, right? Politics is tribal. A lot of the issues in politics come from tribalness. Let's get rid of some of the bigger tribey tribes. Like, would you still have football hooliganism if you banned football? I mean, you would just have hooliganism.
Yes.
Cricket hooligans, fighting at Lord's or at service stations near Lord's. So hang on, Gary. This you're hearing this live from my head, Gary. What we're talking about is a system of government, a democratic system where nobody was allowed to tie their colours to a mast. Presumably, candidates would have to be part of a party. And then if I was a candidate in a council election, council election's coming up in May, and you can register to vote now. If I was a candidate in an election, at the next general, and then I didn't win, well, obviously I wouldn't, who would vote for me, right? And then I didn't win, then would I stop being a member of that party? It's tricky. Political parties used to, a very, 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 very long time ago, be formed after elections. People would stand as themselves, and then when they got to the House of Commons, they would then kind of agree and form groups and form parties when they were there. And then, like hundreds of years ago, this is. And then they realised that if you're going to be a party afterwards, you should probably tell people what party you're going to be in. You should probably tell what party people are going to be in before. I like the theory, Gary. I'm not sure. Given that we need to have candidates and given that we need to have people supporting candidates, out door knocking, I think it's tricky. I think also, finally, and I'm sure Dan's got some thoughts as well, but finally, from me, political party membership is quite an open and honest form of funding. For political parties. You say you have to pay however much it is. I'm not a member of a political party, so I don't know. You have to pay however much it is to join the political party, and then you have thousands of members, and then you get lots of money from that. And we find, there's a lot of dodginess about donations and cash for access and all of these things. But party membership, I think, is quite honest and transparent in terms of funding.
I think the funding donations part is definitely interesting. I wonder if that's why maybe Gary asked the question. But for me, there's two things that I think make it worthwhile being a party member, potentially, if you feel strongly about a particular party. One is the idea of conference, that you get together with like-minded people and you get to talk about the direction of the party and vote on stuff that will actually become policy. So to be able to attend a party conference as a member, that's, I think, a real perk and a real benefit. And secondly, it's very often just the membership who have a say in things like leadership competitions. And my goodness, the Conservatives have had their money's worth in terms of leadership contests in the last few years. So that also can make it beneficial to be a member, because you're not just someone who supports the Conservative Party, you're someone who can have a say in who the leader is. So you've got a say on leadership and on policy, don't you? So it's quite a wide So I still keep them for now, Gary. But interesting.
I think really, really interesting because of that trying to get rid of that tribal nature. I also don't think it would get rid of that tribal nature, because if you look at Labour, there's tribes within Labour, clearly, and there's also tribes within the Conservative Party, and they wouldn't disappear.
And maybe people would just form those kind of tribes by issue, If we didn't have any parties whatsoever, but we had a vote on, for example, the VAT on private schools, people would just split accordingly, So I think if it wasn't around parties, it would be by single issue anyway. So, cool.
Interesting. Perfect, thank you. So question 2, we've got Tegwin. We've had Tegwin on our YouTube channel. So
oh, bro.
Go on, Teg.
Nice to see her back. But Tegwin asks, why does Parliament have recesses where no politics happens?
Oh, Tegwin. Oh, Tegwin. We thought you were so great, and then you've said this. Right. Why does Parliament have recesses where no politics happens? They don't. Parliament has recess, but politics doesn't stop. Right. So why do they have it? They have it because people... So first of all, people need a break. No human should ever work 52 weeks a year. Right? That's not nice. And they would get tired, and we want our politicians to be fresh and interested and engaged and all of that. Now, recently... And Diane says I say this all the time, so I'm going to be very quick about it. Don't nod at me. Recently, so Tony Blair changed it, because there used to be holidays all over like a couple of weeks here and a couple of weeks there. And Tony Blair was like, no, they need to reflect the school holidays so that MPs can have children and still be a parent. And so now, pretty much every school holidays has Parliament and recess. But when Parliament is in recess, it doesn't mean that MPs are back home doing nothing. It doesn't mean that MPs are hitting the slopes or the beach. They're not teachers. They don't just take all those long holidays off. They are doing constituency business. That means they are dealing with issues that their constituents, the people who voted for them, people who didn't vote for them in their area, need them to deal with. They're also, government ministers are still ministering. They're still running the country. They're still, on top of their briefs and looking after their constituencies. So much is going on. Like, let's assume just for a second that this Ukraine situation rumbles on into April. There will be a recess in the first 2 weeks of April, but you better believe that Keir Starmer will be, off meeting Trump or Zelensky or whoever else, and not saying, well, it's recess, I'm going pub. Right?
Oh, and here's the thing. If something really, 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 really major kicked off, Parliament could come back, right? In recess. Why? Well, you're not responding.
Well, yes, they could, but they never do. Basically, big stuff happens, and the Liberal Democrats are always like, oh, Parliament should come back. And the Prime Minister of the day always goes, nah, probably shouldn't. Yes, it is possible the Parliament can meet again. If the government suggests it, then the Parliament can be recalled. Yeah.
I have something to add to that. Do like MPs do like annual leave requests like
No.
other employees? They just book their holidays if they want to go.
Yeah,
away.
but I mean, it's like a teacher. A teacher can't book annual leave. If they have something that's really important and they need to go and do it, then they need, and there's a big vote coming up, so it's in parliamentary time. They need to be paired off with somebody else. So if I'm a Labour MP and Diane's a Conservative MP, and we both need to be off, then the whips will chat to each other and make sure we're linked, so that both sides have one fewer votes.
Interesting.
And only recently have they introduced parental leave in Parliament as well. So so parental leave is a brand new thing, and it's the first time people have officially been able to take time off from being an MP.
And that's a really good thing. There's a cabinet minister who's taken paternity, and he's the first cabinet minister to have ever taken paternity, and that's a really, really good thing. He
doesn't care about his job.
Don't write in, folks. Don't write in. Right.
Well, that's all my questions. So yeah, back over to you guys.
Thanks,
Lottie.
Thank
See you again next week.
See you soon.
Well, I think we're moving towards the end of the pod. It's looking like...
I have an announcement to make.
Yeah.
Hello, lovely YouTube viewer. We are doing something a bit different this week. We are slotting in a bit we made with the Electoral Commission about the deadline to vote, deadline to register to vote. Because of the way technology works and the Electoral Commission work, I can't show you that bit. We can't put that bit on here. If you'd love to hear it, and I know you would, do check out podcast bits, not YouTube music, but podcasts like, Spotify or Apple or all the other places you can listen to a podcast, and you can hear that bit in its entirety. If you don't reach out to listen to it elsewhere, come on, people, who even are you? If you're not going to do that, make sure you are registered to vote by 11:59 on, is it the 11th of April?
Yes. Yeah.
At 11:59 p.m. on the 11th of April. Cheers, guys. See you later.
Right. So let's have a look ahead to next week. That was...
Oh, Diane, what's coming up?
Well, it's never a dull moment, but it looks like a particularly busy week next week. So we've got police and crime on Monday. Now, what's really interesting about the police and crime bill is it's got a ton of new offences in. So just a couple off the top of my head, we're going to have a new very, very specific offence for spiking drinks. We're going to have a specific offence for assaulting a retail worker. There's a number of other things that are going to be banned, like the technology to jam car alarm signals, all of these kind of things. Brand new offences. Now, there is a real debate to be had about how effective that is in tackling crime.
I mean, assault is already a crime.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So this is just drilling down into specifics to try and almost say that when something gets separately recorded by the police, they can keep more of an eye on it, more of a track on it. They can say, this is a huge trend at the minute, this shoplifting and assaulting of retail workers. So, let's measure that. Let's track it. Let's measure it. Let's really, really, really hone in on it. And I think that's what they're trying to do. But there is a lot to be said for the fact that we're still not talking about causes of crime, really, in this bill. We're talking about punitive measures, really.
I think now we're really running out of time, but what you made me think of when we're doing that is two things. One, Kemi Badenoch saying we're making more and more laws.
Yeah.
And this is definitely making a lot of laws. Yeah. But two, targets. We need to be wary of targets because targets get hit, but other things don't. So when you make a target, normally it gets roughly hit, but resources are pushed into what's being targeted and taken away from other things. Like when you protect the budgets of some departments, you then put the strain massively on other departments. Targets are really challenging because we want to hit those targets, but what are we going to sacrifice in order to do so?
Yeah.
Also coming up next week is the Employment Rights Bill.
Ooh, yeah.
We've talked about this a lot already. So day one, parental rights. So if you just start a new job and then find out you're pregnant, then that's okay. And you still get parental leave. If you can't fire and rehire, which is bad news for me because I was going to ditch this team, and then get them back on worse contracts. Oh, it's illegal. I can't do it. Darn it. Diane can do a little dance.
Yeah.
Bringing an end to exploitative 0 hours contracts. Again, that's me.
Ian.
Foiled.
Yeah.
I love an exploitative 0 hour contract, me. So that's coming up. Obviously, it's supposed because every time you make it harder to fire someone, every time you put more regulations in protecting someone, it makes it more of a risk to hire them. And so businesses and growth and all of that stuff, it's going to be a hell of a week.
Yeah, it is. So, yeah.
And Ukraine's not going away, is it?
No. And, yeah, all sorts of other things. Really important stuff still in the background, like COVID inquiries and, yeah, incredible.
Busy.
Yeah. So stay tuned, basically. Don't go anywhere. Get yourself to one of our pages. You've got the choice: Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, YouTube.
YouTube came last. Producer Lottie is here with us, and you put YouTube last.
It was alphabetical.
You're a monster.
No, it wasn't, because X. Oh, no. No, X, Y. No, I did it. It's alphabetical. Oh, my goodness. I just had a little moment about the alphabet there. That was a shocker. Right.
When I do you have to sing the song to do the alphabet?
Sometimes.
I can't do the alphabet without the song.
Yes. Yeah. It's years of Sesame Street. Just have to recall yeah, get it. Anyway, on that note, we got to say thank you for listening. Remember the patreon.com/simplepolitics, as Tatton said right at the beginning. And we will see you again next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.